The BBC is a global British institution of huge importance and value to millions of licence fee payers and people all over the world who look on it as an exemplar of independent public service broadcasting. And in light of the ongoing crisis, it's crucial that the BBC puts the systems in place to ensure that it can continue to make the first-class news and current affairs programmes on which its reputation rests. George Entwistle has taken full responsibility for the failings of Newsnight in his role as Editor-in-Chief, and it was for this reason that he decided to resign yesterday. The circumstances of his departure make it hard to justify the level of severance money that's been agreed. Contractual arrangements are a matter for the BBC Trust, but the Trust also has clear responsibilities to ensure value for money for the licence fee payer. The National Audit Office is empowered to conduct a value for money review of any issue. If they decide to review this decision, I expect that the BBC would cooperate fully. The BBC is in the midst of the most serious of crises, and I've made it clear both publicly and privately that the Trust was slow off the mark in responding to the initial crisis over Savile. They are now acting decisively with 3 reviews, one of which reported yesterday and the other 2 ongoing. It's in the long-term interest of the future of the BBC to have a period of stability to see this important work completed. In my conversations with Lord Patten, I've been clear that the overall aim of the Trust must be to rebuild the public's trust in the BBC. And I know that Lord Patten agrees. And there are 3 things that they need to do to achieve that, Mr. Speaker. First, the immediate task for the BBC must be to address whatever failings there have been within the editorial process, particularly Newsnight, in order to restore public confidence in the BBC. The Trust needs to act swiftly to ensure that the management and leadership issues are resolved and that these failings cannot be repeated. It's clear from the Interim Director General's interviews today that the BBC is looking seriously at what went wrong, where responsibility lies, and how to address this in the long term, and I welcome this. Second, the Trust must get the right Director General in post, and I know that Lord Patten has indicated that he will do this as soon as possible. But above all, the Trust must get the right candidate to both stabilise the BBC and drive through the change that's necessary. As I've said before, the BBC is a global British institution and it needs to function effectively. Third, we must not lose sight in all of this in terms of the inquiries and what is at the heart of these events. None of the developments in recent days should overshadow the investigations into the alleged horrendous abuse of children in institutions around our country. It's vital that the BBC responds correctly and decisively to both Pollard in terms of the decision to drop the Newsnight item on Savile and Smith in terms of looking at Savile's abuses and the culture and practices of the BBC. The BBC is an independent institution and its independence is not and never will be in question. Ultimately, the only organisation that can restore the public's trust in the BBC is the BBC itself.